with my mother and my father. And one day, my father had a young man come to have dinner with us, and he introduced him as his son, Miguel. And that's the very first time that I realized that there was a crack in my idea of what our family was. I remember years before that, a woman had come to our home, and her name had been Rosalinda. Somehow I thought she was my sister, but when I met Miguel and he stayed in Los Angeles, I saw him, he would come periodically to different things that my family did. I realized, well, she can't have been real, because you can have one illegitimate child, but there, two is just sin. It was more than I could handle. Even though I acknowledged him as my brother, I took a lot of my lead from how my parents treated him. And I would say that they did not treat him with the level of respect or value. They didn't integrate him into our family all the time. And I realized he was alone, that his mother had died. His two sisters, at the time I didn't know I had two sisters, were in Mexico. And we were it. We were family in this difficult moment for him. So I got up my nerve and I called him and I told him how sorry I was. I told him that from now on he was my brother, and that whatever we did as a family, I would encourage and engage him as that, and that was really an important piece for me, because I broke away from the mandate of my father and also of my mother, and really saw him as my brother. Before my father had died, my sister and I had had a very brief conversation where she told me that she had finally asked my father if Rosalinda was my sister, and he had said yes, and you have another sister. I was at a place in my life where this was more than I was willing to, I couldn't even contain that, because I also realized in that moment that this was not a no big deal relationship, that in fact he, according to Miguel, had married his first wife, his mother, and that they had 3 children, the same way that my mother had 3 children. And so I began to realize that this was very, very messy. It was not a simple situation at all, and that it was going to require something big for me, and I was not at that moment ready to do it. I remember I had a writing coach at the time. Every week she would ask me, what are you going to commit to doing between now and the next time we talk? I said, I want to meet my 2 sisters. I called my brother Miguel because I knew that he would help me do this, and we agreed to fly down together. I got on the plane with Miguel, and I took out a piece of paper and I started creating a family tree, and he helped me to say, okay, Teresita is married to Victor, and they have 2 children, Ariete and Antonio, and Rosalinda was married to Juan Jose, and she has 3 children, and we began to really understand the whole landscape of my family. When you get into the Mexico airport and you get your luggage and you go through security, there are these really large, glossy glass doors. They open as you get close to them, and then you see the sea of people, everybody peering anxiously to see if they can find their family. We walk out, and I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I cannot believe I'm doing this. They came over and they gave him hugs and kisses, because of course everybody in the family was there, because that is the way it is. And then I realized in that moment that I was like Miguel had been in the United States. I was the odd woman out, watching this family with all their history and their costumbres and their maneras de ser. But to their credit, they turned and they gave me hugs and kisses, and they engaged me very quickly. And I will always be grateful for the ways that they immediately let me be part of their family. That night we went home and got to bed early. The next day it happened to be Miguel's birthday, so we went to Lake Chapultepec to have lunch. And as we sat there and the waiters were bringing the birthday cake to celebrate, I remember thinking, people are looking at us and they're thinking, this family as a family, like they've known each other for years, instead of understanding, no, it's the first time I have been there with my 3 Mexican siblings at one time. At night, we got together at my sister Rosalinda's house, and I don't know how it happened, but all of a sudden we sank deeply into the whole conversation of what it had been like for them to be left by my father. I felt like my job at that time was just to listen, to hear them. No, I was not there representing my father. I was there to hear the pain that they must have carried for a long time and would never have been able to tell my father. But I wanted to be able to hear everything that they had to say, even though it shattered a lot of my love and my loyalty that I had for my father. I had to see him as a real person and see everything that he had wrought in his life, both the things that were painful and the things that were beautiful. I had to see that I would not be alive if he had not left this family, and I had to sit with how uncomfortable that was. In really looking at understanding who my father was, both the things that he did that were painful and mean, and the things that he did for me, because he was in many, many ways a very present father. I had to really think about, one of the gifts he didn't really give me was my connection to my patria. And he didn't give me the connection of the warmth and the love and the connectedness that I saw with my siblings in Mexico. One of the things I got was the capacity to really begin to feel myself in terms of my biculturalism, and to feel what it is, that how much more there was to it than I had been exposed to from my father and even from my mother as a Colombiana. With this family, no matter, even after we had our painful conversations at the end of the night, we would always end with besos and hugs and a commitment that no matter what happened tomorrow, we would get up again and we would still be family. After that, I brought my kids to meet their family, and we were able to forge a new beginning with the next generation. That was the beginning that didn't have the secrets and the lies and the shame and the anger and the disappointments that my generation had to live with